Washington, President Truman gets issues of a new 3-cent stamp honoring our servicewomen and presents sheets of the stamps to service representatives. An album of the new issue goes to WAC Director Colonel Mary A. Halloran. Our women flyers, the WAFs, also get an album, which is accepted by Colonel Mary J. Shelley. The Waves come next. Captain Joy B. Hancock is their representative. The Marines album is accepted by Colonel Catherine A. Toll. Mr. Truman tells the representatives of the servicewomen honored on these stamps that we need more young ladies like them.
President Truman, continuing his cross-country whistle-stopping tour for Stevenson, introduces daughter Margaret at Colorado Springs, Colorado, to a train-side turnout. Then he rips into General Eisenhower for urging the election of all Republican candidates.
Finally, the Republican candidate has betrayed his principles by publicly endorsing every Republican candidate in the country, regardless of whether that man is the blackest of reactionaries, a diehard isolationist, or even a moral scoundrel. I hope you will understand why, although I once thought the general would make a good president, that I'm now convinced that I was absolutely wrong. And I hope you will think also about these very important reasons when you vote on November the 4th. Thank you.
In Washington, during the Theater Owners of America convention, ex-President Mitchell Wolfson congratulates Alfred Starr, his successor, as the TOA wives visit the home of another president, Harry S. Truman. On the White House grounds, the ladies are conducted on an inspection tour by a qualified guide who enjoys the job, and he proves it by mixing in with the crowd. President Truman takes to the road to stump for a continuation of Democratic policies on a tour that brings him from Montana down through the West Coast to California. Crowds turn out everywhere to see the president, who also draws the usual compliment of small boys. In San Francisco, Mr. Truman says Eisenhower is a captive of old guard Republicans.
President Truman, Taft's longtime opponent, speaking before the National Conference on Citizenship, assails the use of what he terms communist-like tactics by some people in this country.
Unfortunately, there is a tendency in this country today to resort to the use of the big lie in order to reap personal and partisan advantage. It's a big lie, for example, to say that we tolerate communists and other disloyal persons in our government. Partisan feeling often runs high in election campaigns. That is understandable, but it should not lead us to permit the use of this dangerous communist technique in American politics.
President Truman, continuing his vigorous campaigning for Adlai Stevenson, tours New Jersey and Pennsylvania. The Republicans are peddling poison, he charges, in accusing his administration of softness toward communism. In New York City, General Dwight Eisenhower visits Harlem, heart of the nation's largest Negro district, where he pledges an effective civil rights program. The general is greeted by John Roosevelt, FDR's youngest son. Earlier in Detroit, he promises that if elected president, his administration will, as he says, seek an early and honorable end to the Korean War.
Now, where will the new administration begin? It will begin with its president taking a firm, simple resolution. That resolution will be to forego the diversions of politics and to concentrate on the job of ending the Korean War. That job requires a personal trip to Korea. Only in that way could I learn how best to serve the American people in the cause of peace. I shall go to Korea.
President Truman awards the nation's highest honor to 3 Marine Corps heroes of the valiant Chosin Reservoir fighting in Korea. Lieutenant Colonel Raymond Davis saved an entire rifle company from annihilation. Tech Sergeant Robert Kennemore lost both legs in preventing a grenade from killing his buddies. Private First Class Hector Cafarata waged a one-man battle to stop an enemy breakthrough. To these men and their comrades in arms, America will always be grateful.
President Truman and Governor Stevenson, who flew on to Washington from the CIO convention for a two-day White House visit, meet for the first time since the election. Stevenson says he has come to discuss the future of the Democratic Party and attend a farewell dinner with outgoing administration officials.
The coming year-long celebration of aviation's 50th anniversary is ushered in as President Truman presents John Stack with the Collier Trophy. Major General Lucas Bowe, commander of the Civil Air Patrol, receives the Brewer Trophy at this Wright Memorial Dinner in Washington. The final award goes to another general, Lieutenant General Jimmy Doolittle, chairman of the Celebration Committee, who accepts the Wright Memorial Trophy. The president calls for more air power to safeguard peace.
We are throwing our energies into military aviation because we want to prevent war. We are developing new techniques and new weapons in the hope that they will never have to be used. Our aim is peace. We must never, never forget that.
At Washington National Airport, there is a warm personal welcome from President Truman awaiting Secretary of State Acheson, returning from his last big international conference, the North Atlantic Council meeting in Paris. After almost 4 years in office, Acheson prepares to step down. Leaving in Washington, outgoing President Truman holds his last formal meeting with the members of his cabinet. With the Republican administration preparing to take over the reins of government, the conference between the chief executive and his circle of top-level advisors is brief. It concludes with a traditional presentation to the president. State Secretary Acheson, on behalf of the cabinet, presents Mr. Truman with a big leather chair he occupied during his fateful years in the White House.
President Harry S. Truman, on the eve of his return to private life after almost 8 years in office, comes before the American people to say goodbye.
In speaking to you tonight, I have no new revelations to make, no political statements, no policy announcements. I want to talk with you a little about what has happened since I became your president.
Even as the president speaks, the packing of his valuables continues. The most important decision in his time as president, Mr. Truman says, was to send American boys into battle in Korea. The issue, he explains, was whether there would be fighting in a limited area now or on a much larger scale later. During his fateful years in the White House, Mr. Truman states, the blessings of American liberty and American prosperity have been shared more equally by all our people. He pledges his support to the new president and concludes,
and as Mrs. Truman and I leave the White House, we have no regret. We feel we have done our best in the public service. I hope and believe we have contributed to the welfare of the nation and to the peace of the world. And now the time has come for me to say good night and God bless you.
President-elect Eisenhower and Mrs. Eisenhower arrive in Washington for the inauguration. Excited crowds hail the man who's to become America's new president. A motorcade speeds the Eisenhowers to the Statler, where with son John and his wife, they are to stay until they can move into the White House 2 days later. At National Presbyterian Church, early on the morning of the inauguration day, the Eisenhowers, followed by members of their official family, arrive for private services. The Vice President-elect Richard Nixon and his wife are also present. Eisenhower prays for divine guidance. He has been given a copy of the New Testament by Minister Elson. The historic moment of the inauguration is fast approaching. Eisenhower's next stop is the White House to pick up Mr. Truman. The outgoing president, ending the last few minutes of his term, and Mrs. Truman and Margaret give the Eisenhowers a warm welcome to their new home. Mr. Truman is now finishing almost 20 years of public service in Washington. With Senator Bridges and Speaker of the House Martin, Ike and Mr. Truman head for the Capitol behind a flying V of policemen. The streets of Washington are filled to overflowing, with 500,000 out-of-towners adding to the excitement. Ahead is the Capitol, half hidden in the fog that covers the city. Beneath the Great Dome, America's 34th president is to take the oath of office before 125,000 persons. President-elect Eisenhower arrives and slowly makes his way out on the elaborate, specially constructed inaugural platform where Mr. Nixon, President Truman, and other distinguished guests are seated. Every foot of space on Capitol Plaza is jammed with spectators. The 39-year-old Nixon, hand-raised and solemn, is sworn in as vice president. The climax is near to one of the most impressive inaugural ceremonies in America's 164-year history. A wave of excitement sweeps over the crowd, young and old, as the stewardship of the world's greatest democracy changes hands. Eisenhower takes the oath.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So help you God. So help me God.
Mike shakes hands with Chief Justice Vinson and retiring President Truman, and in a second is at Mamie's side to kiss her on the cheek. Then returning to the rostrum, his first act after assuming office is to ask humbly that the crowd join him in his own prayer.
My friends, before I begin the expression of those thoughts that I deem appropriate to this moment, would you permit me the privilege of uttering a little private prayer of my own? And I ask that you bow your heads. Almighty God, as we stand here at this moment, my future associates in the executive branch of government join me in beseeching that thou wilt make full and complete our dedication to the service of the people in this throng and their fellow citizens everywhere.
He begins his inaugural address in which he fixes 9 principles in the quest for peace. Speaking of the faith that sustains America, Eisenhower says,
"The enemies of this faith know no God but force, no devotion but its use. They tutor men in prison. They feed upon the hunger of others. Whatever defies them, they torture, especially the truth. Here, then, is joined no argument between slightly different philosophies. This conflict strikes directly at the faith of our fathers and at the lives of our sons. For this truth must be clear before us. Whatever America hopes to bring to pass in the world must first come to pass in the heart of America. This is the hope that beckons us onward in this century of trial. This is the work that awaits us all, to be done with bravery, with charity, and with prayer to Almighty God. My citizens, I thank you."
The new chief executive's 2,300-word address concludes this traditional hour, symbolizing the functioning of the American democracy. The huge throng applaud the new First Lady brought forward by her husband. This is their shining hour.
When the official ceremonies at the Capitol are completed, President and Mrs. Eisenhower prepare to lead the motorcade to the White House reviewing stand, escorted by echelons of motorcycle police. As the procession moves along historic Pennsylvania Avenue, the new president, vigorous and smiling, waves heartily, acknowledging the cheers of thousands upon thousands of enthusiastic, wide-eyed citizens. President Eisenhower, a veteran of many parades, leads the most important one of his life. The entourage drives into the White House grounds, where the president and vice president take their places on the reviewing stand. Before them pass the cadets of West Point, marching in perfect formation. 40 years ago, President Eisenhower, then a cadet at the Military Academy, marched with the West Point contingent in the parade at Woodrow Wilson's inaugural. Battle-clad infantrymen parade the colors of Army and Marine regiments that have fought in Korea. 750,000 spectators watch the awe-inspiring pageant, which goes on for hours. Dwight D. Eisenhower, at 62, becomes the 34th President of the United States. Citizen Harry S. Truman, free from the burdens of the presidency, gets a rousing send-off as he and Mrs. Truman prepare to leave Washington. The former president remarks,
In all my political career, and it has been a long and varied one, I've never had anything like this.
daughter Margaret has gone on to New York to resume her singing career, while her parents are Missouri-bound. Arriving home, there is a heartfelt welcome from his friends and neighbors. Surrounded by several thousand well-wishers, Mr. Truman says,
We're back home now for good. I'm in the army of the unemployed now, although we do thank you immensely for this wonderful welcome. I don't see how anybody in the world could have a better one. Thank you very much.
Then the Trumans hurry on to their big white frame home, where the former president says he will unpack and rest.